Hi, welcome to the latest video from Information First featuring Content Manager 9.3. In today's video, as you can see above me, I had to move my picture because the words are over there. I don't want to block them. As you can see above me today, we're going to look at data validation, and that's just a spillover from the last video I did where I was playing around with data validation. And when I went in to do a record creation, it popped up and I was like, oh, so I thought I'd give a little more detail and show you a little bit more about how we can set up some data validation rules. The next thing we're going to look at is creating user labels. Now, this came up from our webinar today, if you were lucky enough to join us. And the question was, how do we share user labels? And that's one of the new features that you can do in the current version of Content Manager, the ability for me to create a user label and share it with staff or other members of my group. So we'll show you that one. And the last thing is a little bit of a bonus. I just thought of this last minute, was Asian character searching. And this was something I was researching for a customer, the ability to search and index by Asian characters. And of course, you need to have your database configured to support the Unicode. So we'll take a look at that as well. Pretty exciting stuff. Let's go to the overlay screen and get started. So in Content Manager, where we left off was data validation. Data validation is accessed through the Manage ribbon. And I'm going to click on the data validation rules right here. Now I have that one that we saw in the last video that said basically, hey, if your receipt is less than $5, we don't need, or if your claim is less than $5, we don't need a receipt. So just to show you how that one worked, and as a bonus, I'm going to show you how that works on the web client. So let me open up the web client, go to my records, and I'm going to create a new record. Now for this particular example, I'm not going to create a, oops, I want to close this one down. Of course, now it starts to slow down when I'm doing a video. That's okay. So I'm creating a new record. I'm going to grab my expense report, and I'm going to put a, I had a nice lunch at KFC. So let me put in KFC lunch, and it was just something handy. So I got to put this in my my expense folder. So I'm just going to put in 2018, and sure enough, there's my receipts. And I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to try to get out of this creation and hit save. Oh, I love the new validation on the web client. You see that? A little error, red error comes up. Not that big orange box yet, but we just get the nice little thing that you must enter a value. So my meal at KFC was $4.99. I got an extra deal, and I'm just going to click save my expense. And what happens is I get the data validation check. So it's coming up and saying, hey, expense receipts under $5 are not necessary. Perfect. I'm going to register this anyways because I'm a good employee. And in goes my $4.99 luxurious, no, is that the right word? Tasty meal at KFC. Let's expand the data validation and set a new one up and show you how that goes. And for that, I'm going to go full screen so you can maximize the view of what you're seeing me do. All right, so let's do a scenario where we have anything less than $5 does not require a receipt, but anything more than $500, we want like executive approval. So that's going to be the scenario here. Create by or start by right-clicking in the data validation and selecting a new validation rule. Now I've been playing around with this and researching it. It's not necessarily, it's best designed for custom properties or additional fields if you're old school, and the custom properties are the ones that we're going to create. So in this case, the error message is going to be, whoa, that is an expensive meal. You had better get executive, did I spell it right? Executive approval. And then please mark as true. All right, oh, bad spelling. I'm a really good speller. This microphone cable here gets in my way of my hands when I type, so just to let you know, that's why I make typos. Okay, so now we want to ask, what is the following criteria? So when an item meets the following criteria, so I'm going to say when my receipt value is more than $500. So I'm going to use this little quick select button. I'm going to go off and I'm going to search for my additional fields, which I created, and of course it will be under additional fields, and I'm going to do expense value. And I'm going to allow a condition that it is greater than or equal to $500. and I have that. Now I'm going to just click OK to save that condition. So basically, the other rule you see in the background is if it's under $5 to give a warning. This rule says if the value is more than or equal to $500 but doesn't meet this criteria. So this is my condition. What I need is if it is more than 500, I also need to have the executive approval marked as true. So I'm going to click on here. I'm going to go back and look for another additional field. And then you might have noticed in my first pass, I actually had one called executive review. Click OK. And because this is a Boolean field, the operative that you have is either not or you leave it. So if you leave everything alone, it's a true value. If you throw a not in front of it right here, then it is a not, so meaning it's empty. I want to know that this is populated, so I'm going to leave it as true. So I'm going to click OK. And let's generate on new items, and we'll do it like that. So basically, if your expense is more than $500 and you have not selected executive approval, it's going to give you a little bit of a warning. Click OK. And now I've got my rule. Let me right click, or not right click. I like to Control E, and then we can see all of our data validation rules. I'll close them off. Okay, so I've just closed everything. Now let's try and do the same record creation. This time we'll do it again through the web client, but I'll do it a little bit differently. And open up my web client. And I'll try to minimize. Ooh, that's a weird minimize. Let's get that a little bit bigger so we can see what we're doing here. And here we go. Okay, so now, same scenario. Let me go back to my home screen, and I will register my expense report number 1. So I'm going to just drag and drop it onto the web client, let go, and it's going to ask me what am I bringing in. I'm bringing in an expense report, and I'm going to put in here great meal. Whoops, expense 1. Oh yeah, I jumped the gun. Of course, it brings in the title of the file, so I'm going to do expense 1. And what is a nice fancy restaurant that I could have gone to? I don't think I could spend $500 at KFC, but let me just try Super Steakhouse. I don't know, is that a real company? I don't know, let's not. Super Steakhouse. I went there and my expense was a lot, so I'm going to put in it was $749, and I click save. So it's trying to do, and it should be doing the data validation rules. Let me try that again, just in case it didn't register. There we go. Error, the container cannot be left blank. Good. All right, so I probably missed the first one. I was a little overzealous. Let me just slow down and get this done properly. There we go. Forgot to put it into my expense folder, but maybe I'm in a rush. It's Friday afternoon. I got to get my expenses in. Now I get the second error. Record creation failed. Whoa, there's the message. This is an expensive meal. You had better get executive approval. Please mark as true. Click OK. And finally, once I do the executive review flag, click save. It'll go through and save the record as expected. So that is your example and demonstration of data validation. We set it up in the web client. Oh, sorry, we set it up in the desktop client, and we, in this case, watched it being applied in the web client. So it does work, of course, in the desktop client, but I thought it would be a little more exciting to feature the web client for you today. Excellent. Minimize, return, and that takes us to demonstration number 2. Let me just, as a reminder, let me jump back to the screen. We're going to now look at, am I pointing in the right direction? I'm not. I got to remember, everything's backwards in these cameras. The next thing we're going to look at is, oh, that's interesting. I think my title page had them in a reverse order. I was going off my title page. So you know what I need to do? I need to go back to the general tab. There we go. Data validation is first. Creating and sharing user labels will be the second demonstration. So let's just jump right back into the main screen here. Oops, not the end screen. Let's go to the main screen and let's look at user labels. So if you watch the other 9.3 video that I recently did, we talked about user labels, which are under the search ribbon, and click here. Now you all know I'm a big fan of dugongs and manatees, and I also have some research projects that I'm working on. So the demonstration I did in the first video last week, or this week, was the fact that you can drag and drop. So actually I moved the dugongs from my interest into my research projects. So I'm just going to take that little back and put it back into my interest. Maybe I'm done with it. It's no longer a research project. It's now good to go. So now I've moved it back. So that was a highlight of the last video. But we were talking about user labels being shared. For that, I'm going to open up another employee's workspace. And here is Pat End User. So I'm operating as Pat End User. I'm going to go to the search ribbon. I'm going to go to Pat's user labels. And Pat doesn't have any user labels, which is okay. So let's just say Pat is going to do here and create a new label. And this is going to be interesting stuff. TUFF. And sad face, I did purchase a mouse pointer, but for whatever reason it's not being captured. So your videos are just seeing the regular mouse when I'm looking at a blue mouse. So let me actually turn it off so it doesn't distract me. Okay, so there's my interesting stuff. Now, reason why I set this user label up as Pat is because I wanted to show you that if I jump back to myself and I do a refresh or I click on my user labels, I don't see them. So right now, user labels are unique. They're personal. They're only for the individual that creates them. But as an administrator or with the administrative privileges on user labels, you can assign user labels to locations. So let's see how that works. I'm going to go to search locations and I'm going to go to all locations just because it's easy for me. Let me get this screen maximized, and what I'm going to do is expand here the administration. So in the administration, you will notice that there is Pat End User, and on the same team is Information First. That's me. So we are on the same team. Now what I'm going to do as an administrator, I have the permissions. I'm going to right click on my organization, and I'm going to go down here a little bit further to Manage User Labels. Click on Manage User Labels, and you can see that this organization does not have any user labels. I'm going to right click, I'm going to do New, and I'm going to call this New Hire Info. Now this is actually from a real world example of mine where a customer said, hey, it would be great if we had a user label that would have all of the reading material on new hire. They need to read benefits. They need to read policies and procedures. They need to read start and end times. They need to read some basics about their job. Let's make a user label with all of the reading material that they can quickly access. So I'm going to call this new hire info. I'll give it a funny little yellow folder. Let's go bold. Let's give it something else. There, a happy green face. Click like that, and now I have my new hire info. But wait, there's more. Let me find a record now, dugong, like this, and I'll just grab, let's say people need to read this one. This is very important. Everybody must read Welcome to the Demonstration Database. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to send it to a user label, and notice as the administrator now, it shows up in my user labels. New hire info, click OK. I've now added it. But what does this do for Pat? Let's go look at Pat's account. Look at that. I didn't even have to. Oh, wait. Sorry. I got ahead of myself again. Twice this video. There we have our interesting stuff. So what I'm going to do is, Pat, I'm going to close this down. I'm going to go back to my user labels. And lo and behold, I now have access to the new hire info. I can right click on that, say show records, and boom. There is the introduction. I'm sorry, I'm looking off screen. I wanted to get this going here. There we go. There is the introduction to the TRIM database record that was shared by myself as administrator. So basically anybody in the group, in the administration group, who can access the user labels that are assigned to the administration group. So that's a great feature, excellent for sharing information, and I really like this feature. One of those little secret things in the system that is new and great. All right, the last thing, the bonus thing I wanted to show you was, I don't even have to. Oh, you know what? Before I jump into the bonus thing, don't forget, I can go to my user labels, and sure enough, there they all are there. So again, I really push the fact that if you are a dual client, so your users will be using web client or desktop client, then just remember, a lot of these tools, user labels and things, once you save it in the desktop, it's available on the web and vice versa. So I just wanted to point that out before I jump into it. The last thing I wanted to show you was the search for Asian characters. So this came up again from another customer, and what I have done is I have registered a document with some Asian characters. So the first thing we're going to do, and the question to us was, can you search Asian characters in content? So I'm going to leave it on a content search. I'm just going to use my history. So in my history, you can see I've got some Asian, or in this case, Japanese characters. I don't know what they say, so I'm pretty sure it's nothing bad. And this phrase here, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to hit my search button, and I should find two documents. The one there, it's basically the same document being found, but this one is the English title, and this one I replaced the English title with, again, some more Japanese characters to show you that you can actually do title word searches as well. Let's take a look at the preview of this particular document. And let me open it up a little bit, and there we go. So this was just something I downloaded off of the internet, and you can see the different characters here. And I believe the phrase I took was, if I can match it up, I believe it is this one here. So that's the search that I actually put in the search field. Now, I was started to play with that a little bit. Well, what happens if I only put in one character? So here you can see I put in one Japanese character. Now, I don't understand if these are words or letters or concepts or phrases, but searching for this one, when I do it, it doesn't find anything. So whatever it is about the characters in the program, it is it's almost like I'm searching for one letter or something, so it's not the same thing. How I got around that was putting asterisks around it. So when I put asterisks around that particular character, hit the search button, then it does find those two documents again. And in particular, what it was, and I believe I copied that from, well, let me see, it was this one here. So there's that. No, that's not the character. Is it? Yes, this is the phrase here that I had copied. So when it had it on, if I put in the phrase, we know it works. If I put an asterisk on either side of that phrase, you know it works. So this is pretty fantastic stuff. The last thing I wanted to demonstrate related to the title word search was, there we go. I got the title of the record. I'm able to execute that search, and it finds the document, not the other one, not two of them, because don't forget, the other document was only in the content, so it couldn't find it, but it did find it from a simple title word search. So this was pretty exciting stuff, and really positive news for the customer, who now will hopefully go out and deploy the system into Japan knowing it. Oh, I will say though, as a bonus, you do need to make sure, and I was getting some interesting errors until I did. This is, again, bonus material in the Content Manager on your database. What you want to do, if I go into the schema manage, and what you want to do here on the properties right there, if you haven't done it, oh, I shouldn't say it. I don't want to say go out and do it. I want everybody running home to their Enterprise Studio and turning it on, because you got to read the manual. But that's the option here. So you will get better support for it if you do convert the database to Unicode. Please read the trim spec or consult a professional before doing that, but you do need to have Unicode support in order to do the robustness. Test I have done on a non-enabled. I kept getting an error message that the database, but it was finding them. But I wasn't able to search on title words. So that's important to note. Idle will do the content indexing. You can paste the characters in the content search, and it will find it in a Nancy database. But if you wanted to do the title word searches, where you're putting the Asian characters into the title word search, you will in fact need to have the Unicode support. So that's the demo today, and this was pretty exciting. So we had a great turnout on the web. The big news of the week, we are going to offer virtual training. So if you're interested in this and more, we do have formal training. We have a desktop user course. We have a power user course. We have an administrator course. And finally, we have an installation and maintenance course. So of the three areas of Content Manager, what we're looking at is the user base, the records manager base, and then the technical or the install, the back-end base. And we have courses around those three disciplines of the product. The other courses we are, of course, launching is Control Point. So we will have an installation course for Control Point, as well as an administrative course, how to basically work with your repositories, create categories and policies. So it's very exciting, and our webinars, and it's Halloween. So I'm going to sign off now. Everybody go out, have a safe and happy holidays, but have a safe night tonight. Of course, I'm dating this video, so yes, it is Halloween. And let me go to my end screen.